Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Sadie, and today I will show you how I created this medieval cooking station, which includes a fully functional grill and a stove. It's built on 4x2 tiles without CC, and as always I will use the tool mod by Twisted Mexi to place and rotate my objects, but without further ado, let's get started. You may wonder what happened to the Borderlands replica that I was working on 2 videos ago, and for all those who are waiting for it, I just want to apologize and show you that it will eventually be done and go online. It is just way more work than I anticipated, with like 60 hours of recordings that I have to cut. I just need some time to accomplish what I had in mind for it, so please bear with me. Many projects just crossed my way to the finish line, including this one, which was requested by some of you in the comments and is heavily inspired by the free-to-play game Genshin Impact. I decided to finally tackle one of my least favorite objects in the game, which are stoves and grills in general, and with that inspiration I started to browse the catalog for items I could use. I collected some items that I've chosen for previous item redesigns and then found a stone from the Jungle Adventure pack that just had the perfect shape to recreate the beautiful pattern seen in the reference. With the help of the tool mod, I resized them and started to rotate each by different degrees to create the round centerpiece. Working with custom round shapes is always a bit tricky, as one item in the wrong spot can totally destroy the illusion, but with all of Tool's functions you can be so incredibly precise that all you need is just patience and it will all fit together perfectly. After resizing the stones again, I started out roughly and placed them in their position. I first elevated them by using Shift 9 and afterwards adjusted their heights by some decimals using Tool, so that the stone's edges come together and don't clip into each other. To prevent the stones from flickering, I toggle one of the stones active through the tool menu and then alt-click on an open spot on the ground to pull the stones slightly apart. Enough for the game to recognize they are not sitting on the same spot, but not enough to take away from the overall shape. This way I continued to create the first half of the pattern. Then I saved the room, grabbed it from the gallery and placed it again facing the opposite direction. This way I was able to toggle the stones active and pull the second half into the first room to create a circle. And after some tiny adjustments, I was pretty happy with the shape. As I mentioned earlier, this creation was inspired by Genshin Impact, which I was way too addicted to the past few weeks. It's an incredibly beautiful free-to-play RPG which looks like Breath of the Wild, but plays in a very different but still very fun way. I doubt this piece will be the only thing that I recreate out of that gorgeous game. Every single city and village just had me gasp. Have you tried this game also? Let me know in the comments, I'm very curious to know how many of you play it. Back to The Sims. Of course I wasn't done with the pattern after the circle, so I continued doing what I seem to love, placing stones after stone and rotating them until it creates the shape I need. Only creating one half first and then copy and paste it to create the full shape. I toggle the stones active, place the collection nearby with a simple left click and pull it into the right spot with an alt click. To clone items you can toggle one or multiple active and then Shift, Alt and click on an open spot to multiply your collection. This way I cloned parts of the pattern for the curved back wall of the stove, and for the moment I just left it there to see how it looks, and continued on the front wall. Way easier than all the curves I was luckily done with for the most part. I had to create some horizontal stone posts and I did that exactly how I handled the other parts, minus the rotating. By the way, I feel like this is a good moment for a devastating spoiler alert. That stone I used blocks footprints, which means it made the stove behind not functional, but I hate to make empty promises, and so in the end it will double in size, but it will have both a functional grill and a functional stove. God yeah! Well, for now, I just realized what I had done was too small and I needed to pretty much redo all of it in a slightly bigger size. I don't know how many times I have to scrap my work and redo it again before I learn to check on the right size not once, but best around 10 times before going into detail work. I mean, at least the second time around is always done faster and most of the times even better than the first try, so I just have to tell myself 100 times and I'm good to go. Knowing I would copy and paste, I concentrated on finishing the first half, saved it as a room once it was done and rearranged the parts to create the full shape. Knowing that the most tedious part was done, I was thrilled to continue on the overall shapes of the original, covering some cutouts and creating a surface. This was done with a stepping stone from the base game debug and the stone from Jungle Adventure as a frame around it. Once the table had a top, I connected it to the stone pattern, placed some wood and a lamp from Get Famous in the stove and closed up some cutouts with a wall vent that creates a perfect uniform shape when you place it accurately. I changed up their colors and went on to create the back wall. I cloned a part of the curve as I did earlier for testing, elevated it and pulled it into the right direction. To finish off the top edge, I placed some more vertical stones before I started creating the faux wall. I did this the first time in the Sleeping Beauty Castle using a floor decal in pink to create a curved arc piece, and just as tediously for this one I placed the wall vent in different sizes to fill the gaps between the stone rims. As seen in my reference, there are two indents in the wall which I also created by tediously placing resized wall vents until they create a uniform shape. Yes, this took hours, but also yes, I think it was worth it. I think it's details like this that make my redesigns come to life and not feel like they are just a few rotated items cluttered together, which in theory they still are, but let's ignore that. I finished off the back wall with a stone post from the base game debug and a planter as a faux chimney, and I also covered up the weird parts on the inside of the indents with some more vents. I placed some clutter items before I moved on to close up the shape with sides and back walls. It was really just a lot of group selecting, copy-paste and rearranging what I already had done. At this stage everything just came together and all the times where I struggled and wondered what I've put myself into were worth it. Well, before you dive into the next thing that makes you want to rage quit, which was realizing that this thing was not functional after like 5 hours of work, it just suddenly decided not to work after I playtested it the day before and it drove me a bit insane. So insane that I tried to fix it for like an hour, deleting half of the objects that I placed until I got this. And then I just said, if you want to troll me, I'll troll you back, and made the middle piece totally useless but beautiful and started to create functional assets on the sides. I placed down a stove and started to cover it up with items that I knew for a fact wouldn't block the path, such as the stone floor decal and planter from the base game. The wooden post does block paths, but I placed it on the sides far enough to prevent that from happening. I made sure of that like 100 times in between before I rotated the stove, so you would be able to place it in between counters or in a room corner as well. Some tweaks later, I placed some dirt on the walls before I copied the stone corners on the stove. Again making sure they won't be placed near the stove's footprints to prevent blocking. And after some more detailing on the walls and my sim passing out, lol me, I placed a crafted base game chair, some powder jars from Outdoor Retreat and a wooden spoon and broom from the Realm of Magic pack. I had to adjust the rotations before I decided to also add a grill to it on the other side. In theory, this way it's kinda modular. You could only use the middle part for decor and pick out the functional sides according to your needs. Some more clutter and even more playtesting later, I replaced the crafted chair with a stool, placed wooden flooring from Jungle Adventure, and finished it off with a lamp from Get Famous and one from Jungle Adventure. And lastly, a wooden wall decoration to frame the indents. And here we are. A fully functional, modular, medieval cooking station, including a stove and a grill, built on 4x2 tiles. You can download it without CC from my gallery, and I will put a link to that as well as to all creators I mentioned in the description box down below. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did so, hit subscribe and the like button in case you haven't already, and leave a comment or even a suggestion of more items I could redesign or a build that you would like to see me do. Thank you guys for watching, and until next time, bye bye!